If you've seen me before, you know how this works. If you haven't, I make these videos where I show you records and things that I bought. You might find them interesting, or you may not, but thank you for watching. Um, if you are just interested in the records that are the subject of the title of this video, you might want to skip ahead a few minutes to the part with just the records. Because I have some other stuff that I'm going to show you first, and I'll try not to take up your whole day with it. But um, I've worked the last 3 Saturdays in a row, and after each one of them, I have gone to Goodwill. 2 or 3 weeks ago, whenever the first time was, I found a whole bunch of these sealed classical and old people type records that I showed you in a previous video before. So yesterday and the week before, I went to Goodwill after work on a Saturday and did not find any records. But I did find a couple of things that were interesting to me, and you might find them slightly interesting. So, last Saturday after work, um, I was surprised at how few records and CDs and tapes there were to even be found. Because the week before when I was there was, I would say, at least 150 records there. And the next week when I went back, there was about 30 in a crate. And all these crappy CDs and cassettes, which, I mean, I had looked through them kind of already and didn't really want them. But suddenly they were gone. I don't know how many of them were purchased. I didn't think that they were so old as inventory that they were just going to get thrown out or anything, but I don't really know. I did wind up finding a couple of non-record things. One is this Jimi Hendrix cassette. This is the Jimi Hendrix concerts. It's released on Reprise in 1982, so it's obviously post-death of Hendrix. This is a bunch of live stuff from various concerts. I believe the actual original album has been out of print for ages. I don't know how much of the material on this has been reissued on later, more recent Hendrix releases. But this was a double album, which I assume is all on this cassette. And it might be a while before I listen to this, but for 50 cents, this Jimi Hendrix cassette was kind of cool to find. I also got this CD by Coleman Hawkins. The Goodwill that I always go to near where I work, and a lot of other Goodwills that I've been to, always seem to have these racks of weird, cheap CDs that seem to be of somewhat like dubious legality. I don't know exactly where these all come from, and they're all sealed and new. They obviously come as, they may be some kind of remainders from some weird foreign distributor because over time, I bought a bunch of these cheap, like, illicit-looking jazz CDs by a variety of artists, and they're all on weird labels. A bunch of them are from Germany or Japan. This one by Coleman Hawkins is manufactured in the UK or somewhere in the European Union. It's on some label, Flex Media Entertainment. It's got about 58 minutes worth of saxophonist Coleman Hawkins on it, who I don't really know anything about, but I have another CD by Coleman Hawkins that I guess I must have liked okay to buy this one. But it was also of a similar variety of weird, cheap, and, dubious-looking jazz releases that I find on these wire racks at Goodwill. The last thing I got on that particular day for, I'm going to assume $1, though it doesn't actually have a price tag on it. Yes, it does, $1. It was a VHS of 12 Angry Men starring Henry Fonda. This film was made in 1957. I'm not by any means a film buff, nor do I really spend very much time watching a whole lot of movies. There's about 8 or 9 movies that I really like and have watched a bunch of times. By and large, I guess film is just a thing that I don't care about that much. I don't know. However, 12 Angry Men is one film that I do love, and have seen a bunch of times. It's probably one of my 5 favorite films out of the 10 that I care about or even like that much or have many feelings about. Um, I may never actually watch this because I mean, in my life, I'm sure I've already seen this movie 30 or 40 times, including years ago I taped it on VHS from an airing on AMC and watched that a bunch of times. So I might never even watch this. Realistically, I may never. But it's good to have if I ever do. It's a very good film. If you've never seen it, um, in my opinion, this is the best version of the multiple versions that exist. One was from the mid 90s sometime and featured James Gandolfini, among others, Edward James Olmos. I don't really remember who else was in it, but it wasn't as satisfying a view as the original. Um, so that was for that week. This week, yesterday, Saturday, after work, I went to Goodwill and I only found one thing, but it was for $1, another Beatles VHS. You may recall that I found a couple weeks ago one of the Beatles on Ready Steady Go, which was about 20 minutes long. This is 52 minutes long, and it's called The Beatles Unauthorized. It was released in 1996 on Good Times Home Video. It's very illicit looking, in that the Beatles and Apple, I don't think, owns the footage that's on this, or at least at the time they didn't. They might now. Um, so at the time, this was like sort of like kind of public domain video, or could at least be licensed cheaply and easily for a slapdash home video release by this. Um, this includes concert footage from their Washington, D.C. concert, which was their first American show, and the Hollywood Bowl concert. Not the entire sets, I'm assuming, from either of those, but who really knows? And also some interview material on there. Down here it says, this videotape is not authorized by the Beatles or any other entity. So no one gained or had permission to release this. I'm not sure exactly what the licensing affair must have been for this whole thing. But for $1 and a 1 hour video, and I love stuff about the Beatles, I'll watch this maybe one of these days if I ever actually plug my VCR back into the TV. Right now it's occupied by a DVD player and a Roku, so the VCR doesn't really get used a whole lot. And lastly, this should turn a lot of people off if they don't have any interest in this kind of thing. I guess I like professional wrestling, although I have not really actively watched it on TV or followed it for probably about 6 or 7 years at this point. It's been a long time since I really cared. However, I have a bunch of pro wrestling DVDs that are of older stuff. And basically, any DVD release that WWE puts out, if it involves WCW or ECW, or they are sort of career retrospective DVDs of people who spent a decent amount of time in WCW, and if it happens to have old NWA or WCW footage on it, chances are I'll buy it for as cheaply as I can find it. Record Exchange, which is just called The Exchange in most places in the Midwest now, but The Exchange is a good source for pro wrestling DVDs for WWE releases, because oftentimes if you wait long enough after the thing came out, you can find like the 3-disc sets that WWE Home Video often puts out. You can find those for like $11 or $13. I've certainly bought a bunch that way. I paid a little bit more for these, and I ordered them new or used from Amazon, because last weekend, or possibly the weekend before, I was talking to a friend of mine online, and he mentioned both of these to me, which I didn't know existed. And they feature material that is of interest to me in the pro wrestling universe. So I pretty much, during the midst of that conversation, went on Amazon, looked both of these up, and they could be had from third-party sellers for decent prices. They weren't $11 or $13. They were more like, including shipping, they were more like 17 or 18. And considering that I probably won't even watch them for a good long while, I mean, just this week I started watching a 3-disc WWE DVD with ladder matches on it that I know I bought over a year ago, and I just started watching it this week, and I've only gotten to in like 3 matches on the first disc, so we'll see how long it takes me to actually finish watching that whole thing. But my point was, since it takes me so long to get around to watching some of these things, it might have been smarter if I had just waited and maybe looked at Record Exchange in the future and found these for maybe like $11 or $13. But for whatever reason, I was so excited about the idea of these 2 particular releases that I went ahead and bought them online basically as soon as I learned about them. Um, the first one, which is new and sealed, and I think cost me about a few cents shy of $18, probably something like that. This is ECW Unreleased Volume 1. It is a 3-disc set, which features ECW stuff that was, if the packaging is to be believed, has never before been released on DVD. And maybe some of it was never even released on like VHS back when that was a thing. I'm not sure whether I should assume that just means that it was never released on DVD by WWE or ever. Because back when ECW was a thing that still existed in the late 90s, and up to I think 2001 was when they went out of business, they did have a home video release thing with Pioneer, who put out several ECW DVDs. I don't own any of them, and now they're fairly hard to find and out of print and kind of expensive, as they've been out of print for like 10 years or more now. So I haven't done enough research to tell you if there's anything on this that was ever on the Pioneer DVDs. But given the package's claim that this is like 100% never before released on DVD, I guess I'm willing to believe that. And also, what does it even matter? Because it's not like I have any of those old Pioneer DVDs anyways. But just as a point of interest, never before released on DVD. This is, about 7+ hours over 3 discs with a bunch of matches from ECW back in the day. And if you're interested in that sort of thing, get on that. I haven't watched it yet, obviously, but I bet it's good. And the other DVD pro wrestling thing that I bought the same day was, which I didn't even know that it existed until I was told about it and went and ordered it right away. This is the best of WCW Clash of the Champions. This just came out this year. 3 discs, 7+ hours of stuff from Clash of the Champions. Obviously, going from the very first one in 1988 all the way up to the 35th and final one in August of 1997. If you don't know, and you may or may not, and you might not even care, but Clash of the Champions was basically a series of TV specials that were basically, at least intended to be, of pay-per-view quality, big shows, but were not pay-per-view shows. They were just shown on TBS, and later, I assume, on TNT, when Nitro was on TNT. There's a lot of matches, not a lot, but there's a handful of matches that have been released on other sets, maybe with, like Ric Flair versus Sting, when Sting won the NWA title for the first time. Ric Flair and Ricky Steamboat from 1994 might be on one of the Ric Flair DVDs, but otherwise, most of the stuff has never been on DVD, and I still hold a very large and very fond place in my heart for all old WCW stuff. So I had to have this right away, even though I might not watch for a long time. I know when I got this in the mail, I was, flipping through the packaging and looking at the pictures and seeing what matches are on it, and I was really thinking to myself, I'm so excited to watch this a year from now, because it might be that long before I ever get to it. If you're still watching, and I didn't mean to spend like 15 minutes doing what I just did, but if you're still watching, this is the part where I'm going to show you some records that I got. Um, the title of the video can be explained thusly. My parents own and operate a diner, basically. And one of the waitresses has been mentioning to me that she has some records. And since I'm probably the only person that some people know that even owns records or a record player or whatever, I might be the only person that would be interested in them. And they probably haven't been played in years. People who don't own record players have no use for them to just sit around their houses. And so I got this pile of 15-ish records. I haven't counted them, but something like that. Um, I didn't get a chance to look at these before they were given to me, and someone else paid for them on my behalf. I think $1 each. Now, many of these are not worth $1 to me. To me, they are worth nothing. Some of them are garbage. Some of them are just beat and are of no real use to anyone who actually likes records, takes care of them, and wants to listen to ones that aren't fucked. There's a chance that I may be able to trade in 2 or 3 of these for like $1 at Square Records, or I mean, I don't know where else I could take them to. But I'm doing this kind of to illustrate that there's sort of a dark side to record collecting. That sometimes you come across junk, and there might be 1 or 2 gems in it. There might be 0 gems in it. And once in a while, if you're known as a person that likes records and buys them, somebody might just give you a bunch of them, sight unseen, and you're left to deal with the wreckage. Now, I haven't given these a thorough once over, so I'm just sort of going to be spontaneously giving you my thoughts on some of these as I show them to you. Here's number 1. Billy Squier, Don't Say No. Released on Capitol in 1981. It's got The Stroke on it and My Kind of Lava. And I'm sure some other hits, Lonely as the Night. This is of no interest to me. I have no need to own a Billy Squier record. It doesn't look good. It's not destroyed, but it's certainly dirty. And what's the point in me giving it a good cleaning if I don't even want to listen to it? Maybe to clean it up and see if I can trade it in for $1. But other than that, that's something. That's one down out of this pile. That's of no use to me. A couple of these are, for some reason, in plastic sleeves. Pardon me, please. Although, other than the outer sleeves, they don't really exhibit signs of being well taken care of in any particular way. But anyway, on to whatever this thing is. This is Triumph, who I don't think I know any specific songs that Triumph ever recorded. This is from 1979. It's on Attic, distributed by RCA. I don't really know anything about this. Oh, it's got someone's. Let me show you this here real quick. On the inside, someone has written their full name, address, and phone number with it looks to be a Sharpie on the inside of this cover. Good for you that you own it. Let's see what it looks like. It's not too bad. It kind of has some light scratches that look to be mostly from just taking it in and out of the sleeve. There's actually, on the B side, looks to be some kind of very nasty gouge. It looks like some piece of crud got stuck to it, and it kind of looked like somebody took their fingernail and tried to scratch it off, and the crud is still stuck, plus it's scratched. If I saw this in a record store or a Goodwill, I very much doubt I would pay $1 for this. And I'm not sure that anyone else would either. Maybe at like a garage sale, if you got someone that was just like, oh, records. I used to have these. They don't make them anymore, or so I think, because I don't know anything. I'll buy some cute dirtbag rock records from the late 70s for $1. Maybe this could sell under those circumstances, but none others, or maybe it could well. A record in the shrink is Once Bitten by Great White. This is I'm going to take a guess. Maybe like 1988 did this come out? I can't really find a date on it. Oh, 87 actually. Um, this is on Capitol. Uh, I don't know if this had any hits on it. I do not think that their cover of Once Bitten, Twice Shy is on this, although the album is called Once Bitten. It is in the shrink, as I mentioned, and this record actually looks pretty good. It doesn't really look like it's been even played very much. It's not dirty, in that I don't think it would need cleaned with fluid. Um, it's just a little dusty, and I bet I could trade this one in for $1 or $2. Um, I don't know who would be willing to take it for trade that thinks that they could sell it, but I think I'm going to make a separate pile for this one. This will go in the good pile for a vinyl from the late 80s, which, vinyl was kind of on the decline by then, and you don't necessarily find lots of stuff from that era. Plus, what good bands on major labels were there even during that period of time that would even have good vinyl you would want? It's going to go in the good pile, because I think maybe I can trade that. Another record in the shrink, which is kind of torn a little bit, but this is Bad Company's Straight Shooter. Nobody really needs to own a Bad Company record, do they? It's got Feel Like Making Love and Shooting Star on it, so there's the hits. This is from 75. It's on Led Zeppelin's Swan Song label. I'm going to assume this is not like an original pressing or anything, but, I don't know the differences in Swan Song labels to tell you when it actually came from. There's a little bit of crud on here. Just a little bit. It actually looks pretty good, and probably was never really played all that much. I bet I could trade this in. So this is going to go in the pile. There are a couple more records in here in shrink, too. Here's another Bad Company. I believe this is like a best of or greatest hits. It's called 10 from 6, which means 10 songs taken from 6 different albums. So, it's got all the hits on it. This came out in 85. This is a Columbia House pressing. I wonder if all these ones in shrink were from Columbia House. I don't know. I didn't think to look on the other ones. This was, because it says so on the back cover. This is on Atlantic, and it's definitely got a 80s typeface on it. Well, plus it wouldn't even have been manufactured by Atlantic. It was manufactured by Columbia House. But it doesn't look like the text on like 70s labels would look. Again, this looks pretty good. I also don't think it would ever have been played that much. It might need cleaned with fluid, but it looks pretty good. This is probably going to be a trade-in. Again, I don't sell stuff on eBay, and my friend who does, I don't know if he would want to try and sell this stuff or not. Although these 3 that I just showed you are in good condition. But who would want them? Here's a piece of garbage I have no use for, but it's also in the shrink. Here's a White Snake. I don't even know what this album is called. It's apparently self-titled. This came out on Geffen in 87. Still of the Night and Here I Go Again are both on side 1. Interestingly, Ainsley Dunbar plays drums. I know him primarily from his work with Frank Zappa and the Mothers, 1970 to 71. He also recorded in the studio with Zappa in 1972 for Waka Jawaka and the Grand Wazoo. He also was the drummer in the first lineup of Foreigner, I believe, and I think he also was in Starship at some point. I think. I don't know. Can you see the dirt on this record? You probably can't. It looks like fur or something is stuck to it. It looks really dusty. I don't even know what that is. To be perfectly honest with you, I have a feeling that it might be mold or some kind of gross dust. I'm going to say it might be mold because there's water damage to the label on side 2. So, and a little bit on side 1. So yeah, it's just half of this disc is covered in some sort of mildew. Um, this is, I'm going to call this trash. Oh yeah, there's mildew on the inner sleeve and inside the cover. Oh, this is a mess. This is junk. Nobody's going to want this. Even if I cleaned it up, I don't know if I could clean that shit off. If I could, oh god. Another album in the shrink. This is the best of Kansas, with all the hits on it, basically. Um, I guess this came out in '84 on. Well, I was gonna say Columbia, but it just says CBS Associated Records on the label. So I guess we could say this was on CBS. I don't know if that makes it an import. I kind of doubt it, but I don't know. Anyway, it's not that dirty. It doesn't look like it was played. It was obviously kept in the sleeve for a long time. There looks to be a little bit of water damage on the back cover. um, I don't know if I could. I mean, I guess I could try to trade this in. All these ones, if I would trade them in, I wouldn't be expecting to get anything more than like $1. Probably not even 2. But this isn't really something I have any use for. Supposedly, according to the back cover, all the tracks were digitally transferred and remastered or whatever. But who cares, right? Just Kansas. You can hear that shit on the radio. An excellent album, which everyone should own. If you own any vinyl whatsoever, you should have this record. And if you don't, you're an idiot. And if you don't appreciate how good this record is, you're an even bigger idiot. This is the first Boston album. This is in shrink. And I do remember taking this out of the sleeve and seeing that the Epic label was from the 80s, so it's definitely not an original pressing or even an early one. I don't think this came from Columbia House. And condition-wise, it's pretty okay. Just needs a little cleaning, nothing heavy duty. This is it might have been around in the late 70s, I'm not totally positive. But this is basically the very late 70s to all through the 80s Epic label. Looks like this. Earlier ones would be orange. Because I have 2 copies of the first Boston album with the orange label and other stuff that was on Epic in the 70s on orange label. So this is, probably an 80s pressing of this. This would be worth $1. To me, I would pay $1 for the first Boston album. I have once before, so I have no need to a second time. But for some reason, here's the thing I don't understand. This and the Whitesnake record are both in the shrink. So how did this tear on the cover happen? It looks like something got stuck to the cover and then pulled off, and it tore off some of the paper. How did that happen if the record is in shrink? I don't really understand that. The Whitesnake record, who cares? But I consider this a blemish on a very fine record. That little bit of paper damage. Ooh, here's something I'm going to save for last, and it'll be worth it. Because it's the highlight. You'll see. Here's another one in a plastic sleeve. This is the James Gang, Your Album. This is when Joe Walsh was still in the band. James Gang, as you may know, we're from the Kent, Akron, Ohio area, which is kind of in the general area of where I'm from, sort of. This is on ABC Bluesway, which I've never heard of. I've heard of ABC Dunhill, because I have a couple other James Gang records that were on that. I've never heard of Bluesway, though. But I don't know a whole lot about ABC records anyways. There's a song in here called Funk Number 48. I do not know what, if any, relation that has to Funk Number 49. Or if that is, in fact, the same song. I don't know which album Funk Number 49 was on. But it doesn't matter. I don't think this was in great condition, but let's find out. I'm pulling out the inner sleeve, and I kind of feel like there's some crud inside the cover. It's got a London Records inner sleeve, which it obviously doesn't belong in. Um, this looks kind of okay. I'd probably pay $1 for this, although there is a one long scratch that goes all the way across the record right there. Doesn't mean it would skip. It doesn't necessarily even mean that it would really make a noise when you play it. But this is worth $1, and since I don't have any like deep love for the James Gang that I need to keep this record or anything like that, I'll probably try to trade it in. Honestly, I was gonna say the record looks better than the cover does, but I think the cover just looks like shit because it's got this really beat up plastic sleeve on it. It does have a gatefold. The whole spine is intact. And there's not a whole lot of wear on the cover. There's some ring wear on the back, but it's got a nice inner sleeve on the gatefold with some drawings in it. This is worth $1. So obviously we're still way behind on the total price that was paid for all these records, which I think was like $15 or however many there is here. We're never gonna meet that in value going through this. I promise you. Um, Here's a good $1 record. Alice Cooper, Greatest Hits. This has, all the jams from the classic Alice Cooper period. This is on Warner Brothers. Um, it's got the Burbank label. So this is probably a first pressing. 74 was when this was released. Um, it doesn't look that bad. It just has scratches on it that look like there was dirt inside the cover and that just got rubbed up against the record every time it was taken in and out of the sleeve. So it doesn't look amazing, but I can tell you that I will clean this and probably just keep it for myself to listen to. Because I actually don't have this greatest hits record. I've been meaning to find a good cheap copy of it for a long time. Um, and all the early Alice Cooper group era stuff is pretty good, but I don't necessarily feel like they were all good albums all the way through. So a greatest hits is it's pretty good. This is going to go in the good pile. Um, Here's something I just saw on cassette at Goodwill yesterday. It's the Greg Allman Band. It's called Just Before the Bullets Fly. Just before. Just before. I assume that's why the word just is in red to emphasize that it was right. It was right before the bullets. They started flying, but right before that, apparently this album was recording. 1988 on Epic. I don't know any songs on this. In the late 80s or kind of mid 80s, Greg Allman had a hit with I'm No Angel, but that is not on this record. And there's some weird little scratches or gouges or something on here. It's definitely, I can just feel that there's dust on it. I'll clean it, I guess. Probably try to trade it in. Ooh, there's some icky water damage, some mildew inside the cover. But, so I don't know if I could trade this in for $1 or not. But, I'll probably try. Just clean it. A friend of mine, who also got me to buy those wrestling DVDs I showed you before, if you didn't skip over that part, and you probably should have because this video is already like over a half an hour long now, and this is just retarded. But a friend of mine pointed out something to me recently about this record that I really never thought of, and it's that nothing about this cover justifies the record that's inside it. This is obviously Meatloaf's Bat Out of Hell with this cover that is metal as fuck. He's on a fucking motorcycle, this beast cycle blasting out of hell. And yet, this record fucking sucks. I have no use for this. The whole top of the cover is split open. It's got some obvious water damage to it, front and back and side. It's got the inner sleeve. The record, here's that orange Epic label I was telling you about before from the 70s. The record is not that dirty. It's just, it's kind of dirty and scratched in the way that you would expect any copy of this shitty record to be. I will never listen to this. I might clean it, but the cover's fucked. So I don't feel like I even want to try to trade this in. Might as well just fucking throw it away. But maybe hang the cover up because it's admittedly really fucking cool. This record is terrible though. I'm not even sure what pile to put this in. Put it in the good pile for now. It's gonna end up going in the trash later. Another record in the shrink is Steppenwolf's 16 Greatest Hits. This is on MCA, and it's got the MCA Rainbow label. So I'm sure this is from the late 70s, early 80s. It's got to be from like the late 80s because if it's still in the shrink and all this other stuff is still in shrink, and all the other ones came out in like 87 or 88 or whatever, I'm sure this is from them too. Then. No, it's not from them. It's from the people I got the records from. It is from them. But in terms of time period, it was from them. This record looks okay. It has a little, a bit of minor circular scuffing on it. But this could probably clean up okay with or without fluid. And I probably would keep this for myself, although I'm not totally sure why. I probably never listened to it, but then when do I ever listen to any of the records that I own? Anyway, there's that. For $1, I might trade it in, or I don't know, or something. All right, last two. A great album by a great band, The Who's Quadrophenia. It was evidently attempted to be sold at a yard sale or something because it says written $1 on it. This does not have the book in it. And I remember when I pulled these the records out of this, I fully expected this to be on the Rainbow MCA label. However, to my surprise, it's actually on the Brown Track Records label, which I'm not a super duper expert on the Who pressings and stuff, but that might be a first pressing. I know I have I want to say it's maybe a copy of Odds and Sods that's on the Brown Track label, and I'm almost positive that's the first pressing. This is from '73, but these records don't look good. They just look kind of scratched and kind of beat and kind of not great. The copy of this that I have, I think I paid $4 for it, and while it is not a Track Records pressing, it's on sort of a cream-colored MCA label, probably from like the late '70s. It's definitely in way better condition than this. Cost me $4, and also has the whole booklet in it and intact. So I don't know. I don't know if I could trade this in or not. They're just kind of scratched. I was honestly just thinking about just junking the records and just taking the cover and pinning it up on my wall behind me or something because it's a cool record and it's got a cool cover. Now, the gem, the very best thing to be found in this pile was from 1987, I think, yes. This is a Columbia House pressing because it says on the back cover, but I certainly got my $1 worth with Guns N' Roses' Appetite for Destruction in the shrink. It is a record club pressing, which those are strangely desirable to some people, but not most people. But, you know, everybody knows this record. I'm sure you've owned it at some point in your life, probably on cassette, which I've always felt is the only way that you should have this record, is on cassette. Here's the inner sleeve with the controversial, I guess, original cover with the whole robot rape scenario. The colors look really dark on this. I don't think I've ever inspected a real, like, I don't think I've ever inspected any vinyl copy of Appetite for Destruction. But to me, the colors on this just look really dark, and it seems like they shouldn't be that way. I would be willing to bet, although I do not know from personal experience, I would be willing to bet that an original pressing, not from Columbia House, those colors probably look better than that. But there's also the matter of the record, which actually looks really good. And I'm sure that if I really wanted to, I could just give this a little bitty cleaning and sell it. but I'm not going to. I'm going to keep this one for myself because it's a good record, and why not keep it? It was $1, and it was obviously the best thing that came out of this pile of garbage that I got saddled with. That if I could have gone through these records and picked and choosed them for myself, I definitely would have kept this one, but probably only like 2 others, 3 maybe. So that pile wasn't really worth $15 to me. I'll see what I can do for trading some of those in. And I'll probably keep like 3 of them, maybe 4. I might keep that James Gang record. Anyway, this is taking a really long time. I'm sorry for taking up your time. However, I am grateful that you watched. If you like these, I have some more coming in the future. Um, leave a comment if you have anything in particular to say. If you like this or if you don't, commentary would be appreciated. Or just click the little button with the thumb on it that goes like. If that's less labor intensive for you than leaving a comment, go right ahead. Those are appreciated too. That's pretty much all I got for this one. I hope you liked it. Thank you for watching. There's some records and some other stuff. I'll be doing some more of these in the future. There's links below the thing where there's a link to my Twitter thing that I don't really use that much anymore. My Tumblr account, which is, who cares? If you want to look, go ahead. If you don't, I won't be offended. But for now, that's all I got. I will see you again one of these days. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.